Respected students, I welcome you all back to our mock test discussion. This mock test was held on 16th of February 2025, and we are going to discuss every single MCQ with the perfect details. I have tried my level best to explain you in my best possible way. So let's move on towards our MCQs. Number first MCQ states that in a step up transformer, the turns ratio is 1 ratio 2. Okay, if there is a step up transformer, then the initial or the primary coils are less than the secondary number of coils. Cells of EMF 1.5 volt is connected across the primary, the voltage across the secondaries. Now remember one thing, that there is a drawback of transformer, that it is only and only applicable and it can only be used with alternating voltages. Yani alternating current source या alternating current is required in order to operate with transformers. If you will apply a DC or a battery with the primary coils, then there will be no current induced, no EMF induced, and the net resultant secondary coil voltage will become zero. So zero is your perfect and the right answer in this MCQ. What if a alternating current source, not a EMF, not a cell, but a alternating voltage source, alternating current source was applied, that was of 1.5 volts, then the secondary voltage you will be getting will be of 3 volts. That's completely another scenario. Next question states that an imperative sentence ends with. So imperative sentence is basically a sentence in which I am giving you certain orders, like give me the glass of water, open the door, please pass me the salt. So I am basically requesting also, but I am basically using the verb in the start of the sentence. I am not using the subject in the start. I am using a verb in the start, like pass me the salt, please pass me the salt. I am not saying that Abdul Muiz go and give me the salt. I am not using the subject, but I am using the verb in the start of the sentence. So using the verb in the start of the sentence makes an imperative. Now look at the sentences. Pass me the salt. Is it ending with an exclamation mark or a question mark or a comma? No, it is not ending with certain things. It is ending with a period, a full stop. It is ending with a full stop. Now there are certain conditions in which you end this imperative with exclamation marks too, where you say shut the door. Now exclamation mark. You are basically shouting at something, someone. So you may also use exclamation mark, but in certain small cases. But widely, a period is used at the end of an imperative sentence. Now there comes a sentence that states that please accept my sincerest apologies. So if you see that this sentence is also starting with a verb, that is accept. That is accept. Please accept my sincerest apologies. So this is an imperative sentence. What is a declarative sentence? When I declare something, when I call someone. Interrogative with a question mark, exclamatory with an exclamation mark. Okay, identify the kind of sentence. Let's go to the part this afternoon. Now let's go. This is again a verb. So this test all consists, major portion of the English grammar in this test was regarding the imperatives. So this is also an imperative sentence. There is no exclamation mark, there is no question mark, and we are not asking someone, let's go to the park this afternoon. Close the door. Let the door be closed. So this is basically active and passive. Close the door. Let the door be closed. So let's go to the park this afternoon. So we are basically using the verb in the start of the sentence that makes it an imperative. Basically, imperatives are also used in cookings and etc. Things like that. Like add 2 cups of water, then boil the water. Third step might be add salt. Fourth step might be add masalas and everything else. Oh, this question is a good question. If you can understand the question, it is a really good question. A compound possesses 8% sulfur by mass. The least molecular mass is. So a compound possesses 8% sulfur. What is the molar mass of sulfur? It is 32. What is the molar mass of sulfur? It is 32 grams per mole by mass. The least molecular mass is. Now if a compound, if a molecule has sulfur in it, it must at least consist of one sulfur. So there is a single sulfur in it, and that one sulfur makes up 8% of that compound. That one sulfur makes up 8% of that compound. Now, if the molar mass of the sulfur is 32, so 32 grams will be making 8% of that sulfur. 32 grams will be making 8% of that sulfur. Okay. So let's make okay. So 32 grams are making 8%. So how many x grams will be making 100% of that particular compound? Let's see. So let's cross multiply the things up. 8% multiplied by x is equal to 100 multiplied by 32, that is 3200. Okay, x is equal to 3200 by 8, that makes up, if you cancel it out, it will make you 400 grams. 8 ones are 8 fours are 32, then 0, then 0. So 400 is our right answer. This was a good question if you see it very closely. So this is a good question. Charlie is the right answer. Let's move on. The ratio of volume between 4 gram of hydrogen and 32 gram of methane at standard temperature and pressure is. So basically you have to remember one thing, that 1 mole of a compound will occupy 22.4 dm cube of volume. 22.4 dm cube of volume. So if you say hydrogen, so 4 gram of hydrogen gas will be equal to 2 moles. This will be equal to 2 moles, while 32 grams of methane, what is the molecular mass of methane? 12 plus 4, that is CH4. So 12 plus 4 makes 16 grams. Now 32 grams means that this also consists of 2 moles. So both have, you may say, the volume that both these compounds are occupying is 22.4 multiplied by 2, that means both are occupying a volume of 44.8 dm cube. Both are occupying the same volume. Now if you take the ratio between 44.8 ratio 44.8, you will get the answer, that is 1:1. That is your Charlie option. Okay. Next MCQ states that magnetic flux passing normally through a unit area is called. So magnetic flux that is passing through a unit area, is known as magnetic flux density. Always remember, whenever you get the word density, that means per unit area. Whenever you get the word rate, it means that this is per unit time. Whenever you get the word gradient, this means it is per unit, per unit length, or per unit length, you may say. So this is the basic difference. So beta is our right answer. Let's move on. Laminated core in a transformer is used to reduce. Now the laminated core is like, one thing that you may use in the transformer is that if you look at a superior view, this is the core and this is a thick metal. Okay. Now another thick piece of metal is right over here that you use in your transformer, and it has deep cuts in between. So these are sheets of metal plates that are joined together to form the same thickness of the metal plate. Now these cuts reduce eddy currents. These cuts reduce eddy currents. Now these eddy currents are also known, these cuts are also known as laminated core. So this basically lamination in the core, in the metal of the transformer coils, on which the coil is basically wrapped, it basically reduces the eddy currents, or the reverse currents, or the currents that are produced due to induced EMF. This will lessen our loss in the transformer transmission. So eddy current losses are reduced. There are no such iron losses. There are hysteresis losses for which we have to use a good magnet. Yeah, you may say a non-permanent magnet. Heat losses due to resistance are there. That has nothing to do with laminations. 5.6 grams of carbon monoxide is heated with excess of oxygen to form carbon monoxide. Okay, so carbon monoxide is reacting with oxygen to form carbon dioxide. Okay, this is in excess. What should be the theoretical yield of carbon dioxide? How much carbon dioxide will form when 5.6 grams of carbon monoxide is there? So carbon is 12, oxygen is 16. So 12 plus 16 makes it 28. Yeah, 28. 28 grams. Now, for in order to find the moles, I need to have a calculation that is known as moles is equal to mass in gram by molar mass. Mass in gram by molar mass. So mass is 5.6 grams, that is given. Molar mass is 28. Now, in order to solve such kind of question, I have already told you that the simplest trick that you can find, you can also find a video on this on my YouTube channel. That step number one is forget the decimal point. Okay, for one moment we have forgotten that there is a decimal point right over here. We have forgotten it. Now 28 and 56 by 28. 28 ones are, 56 twos are. If you find difficulty doing like this, you may also do it like this, 56 by 28. You may also like apply the table of 2 first, 14, and then you will get 28. And then you will say 14 ones are and 28 14 twos are. This is a simple calculation. Okay, so 2 by 1. Now second step was perform the mathematical problem, whether it is division, whether it is multiplication, or whatever. Now the third step is apply the decimal point from where you have taken it off. So you had first forgotten the decimal point. Now you have to make the decimal point appear in your answer, so that will be 0.2. I have basically explained it in very detail in my video on the simple basic decimal equations. I will mention the video link in the description below. But also you have to see one thing right over here. Okay, why did I place the decimal point before 2 and not after 0? Like, not why not 20.0 on, why not 2.0, and why only 0.2? So basically it was 5.6 divided by 28, and I moved the decimal point from 5.6 to 56. I basically moved the decimal point 1 point ahead. I basically moved the decimal point 1 point ahead. Now this was 5.6. I assumed it 56. How I moved this decimal point from, I moved this decimal point 5.6, this decimal point to here. So I basically moved the decimal point forward. Now I have to move this decimal point again back. I have to move the decimal point again back. So this will make my answer 0.2. So the answer was 2.0 basically. So I moved my decimal point 1 point back. That resulted in my answer as 0.2. So zero point 0.2 moles of carbon dioxide, oh sorry, carbon monoxide are there. 1 mole of carbon monoxide forms 1 mole of CO2. 1 mole of carbon monoxide forms 1 mole of carbon dioxide. So 1 mole of carbon monoxide forms 1 mole of carbon dioxide. 0.2 moles of carbon monoxide will form 0.2 moles of carbon dioxide. You need to convert it into mass. So moles is equal to mass in gram by molar mass. Then moles multiply by molar mass will give you the answer, that is mass. So you have got 0.2 moles. The molar mass of carbon dioxide is 44. If you need to calculate, you may calculate, and the answer will be 8.8 grams. 8.8 grams. How did I calculate it? Step number 1, forget the decimal point. Forgotten? 2 multiplied by 44, 88 is the answer. But again, the third step is place the decimal point. So you basically move the decimal point 1 point ahead. Now you have to make the decimal point go 1 point behind. Now you have to make the decimal point go 1 point behind. So 0.2 multiplied by 44, 8.8 grams. Delta is the right answer. Okay, let's move on. Now the next MCQ states that 10 grams of carbon giving 11.2 liters of carbon dioxide at STP after combustion uh, in the amount of unburned carbon is. So carbon plus oxygen forms carbon dioxide. That is basically combustion. Combustion basically means burning in the presence of oxygen. Burning in the presence of oxygen. So it is basically saying 11.2 liters of carbon dioxide. That means half mole of carbon dioxide is being formed. 22.414 dm cube means, or 22.414 liters means 1 mole. So 11.2 liters or 11.2 dm cube will mean half mole of CO2 carbon dioxide. So if only 12 grams of carbon react with excess of oxygen, then 44 grams or 1 mole of CO2 is will be formed. If 6 grams of carbon is reacting with excess of oxygen, then 22 grams of carbon dioxide or half mole of carbon dioxide as given in the data will be formed. So it is saying that 10 grams of carbon was given initially. 10 grams of carbon that made only 11.2 liters of carbon dioxide. That means half moles. So how many carbon reacted? Only 6 grams reacted. How much will be left from 10 grams? 10 minus 6, that will give you the answer, that is 4. That is 4 grams will be left. That is your Charlie option C. Let's move on towards next MCQ. The concept of limiting reactant is not applicable. While so the concept of limiting reactant is only applicable when the reactions are moving in a straight line, not reversible, because a limiting reactant is the reactant which limits the reaction, which basically stops the reaction, which is in limited quantity, which is in smaller quantity than the other reactant. So doing stoichiometric calculations, we need the limiting reactant. We need to know the limiting reactant because that reactant is the reactant which will decide the amount of product that is formed. If you don't have the concept of limiting reactant, just write it down in the comment section and I will reply it to you. Reaction is reversible. No, if the reaction is reversible, then limiting reactant is not applicable because the reaction is moving in the forward direction and in the reverse direction simultaneously. So both the reactions are occurring in the at the same time. So here we cannot say that limiting reactant concept is applicable. Calculating theoretical yield, yes, while calculating theoretical yield we need to know which one of the following is a limiting reactant. Okay, so whenever the reaction is reversible, it is not applicable. So beta will be the right answer, B option. Let's move on. Next MCQ states that calculate the number of moles of K2SO4 produced when 14 grams of potassium hydroxide are heated with excess of H2SO4. So KOH is heated with excess of H2SO4 to form K2SO4. It has given you the grams of 14 grams of potassium hydroxide, and it is basically asking you how much potassium sulfate will be formed. Again you have to see that सबसे पहले you have to balance the equation. 2 moles of KOH will be reacting with 1 mole of H2SO4 and K2SO4 will be formed. How did I balance? I basically looked at potassium and it was not balanced. So I put 2 moles of potassium. Secondly, you will be having 2 moles of water as a byproduct in this reaction, which is not really necessary to write down. Okay. Basically 2 OH from this side and 2 hydrogen from this side will combine to make water. Okay, so again let's come towards finding the molar mass of potassium hydroxide. 39 for, okay yaar, 39 for potassium. Oxygen, for oxygen it is 16 and for hydrogen it is 1. 40 plus 16, that will make give you the answer 56 grams. 56 grams. Now in order to find the number of moles, mass over molar mass, mass over molar mass, mass over molar mass, 14 by 56, what will be the answer? So what will be the answer really? 2 sevens are 14, 2 twos are, and 28s are, 7 ones are, and 4s are. So you have got 0.25 moles. You have got 0.25 moles. You have got 0.25 moles. Now let's write it down over here. KOH ratio K2SO4. 2 moles of KOH were forming 1 mole of K2SO4. 2 moles of KOH यानी potassium hydroxide were forming 1 mole of potassium sulfate. So 1 mole of potassium hydroxide will be forming half mole of potassium sulfate, while 0.25 moles, if we multiply 0.25 on both the sides, so it will be forming 0.25 by 2 moles of potassium sulfate, or 0.125. If you divide it by 2, you will get the answer 0.125. That is beta answer. Beta option is your right answer. Okay, so let's move on. This was a good calculation. If you find it easy, then that's a good sign. But if you find it difficult, I have given the explanation. Each nasal cavity is subdivided into, remember guys, there are two nasal cavities, but each nasal cavity is further divided into three passageways. Which the upper part where the nasal conchi are there or nasal bones are there, the lower part where which is the hairy portion, and the backward part. So there are three passageways basically. You just need to remember the number of passageways that are present in the nasal cavity, nothing else. Next MCQ states that the amount of given product calculated to be obtained in a chemical reactions goes to completion is. So the basically the amount of product that is calculated theoretically in a reaction is basically the theoretical yield of a reaction. If you calculate the yield experimentally while doing the experiment, then it will become the experimental yield of the reaction. So this is basically theoretical yield of the reaction. That is your beta option. That is the right answer. Okay. Next, pressure inside the chest cavity can be reduced by. So you have to basically reduce the pressure that is in your chest cavity. So your ribs will be moving forward, because in order to reduce the pressure inside, your ribs will be moving forward while your diaphragm will be moving downward. Diaphragm will move downwards or become more flat, losing its dome shape, while ribs will move forward. So downward movement of the diaphragm and upward movement of the ribs. Upward movement of the ribs, downward movement of the diaphragm. That will increase the space inside the rib cage, or the you may say the cavity, thoracic cavity, and it will reduce the pressure. Okay, so delta is the right answer. Next MCQ, interest mammals, the movement for ventilation are governed by. So basically the movements of ventilation means breathing in and breathing out are controlled by which muscles? So this is diaphragm and intercostal muscles majorly. There are various other muscles that are involved, such as serratus anterior to some extent, and many other muscles. Many other muscles are there which are involved in ventilation, but at your level it is only diaphragm and intercostal muscles, not skeletal muscles. Skeletal muscles are involuntary control, not only diaphragm and not only abdominal muscles. A diaphragm and intercostal muscles is the right answer. That is delta. Here comes a logical reasoning question. PMTOOS question mark. So it seems like a difficult question, but we will try to make things work for us. So PONM, I think it is the reverse order. MNOP. So what will come over here? L. L, M, N, O, P. So the first letter is L. Oh, every single option is L. Okay. So M, N, O, P, Q. So M, N is skipped. M, N, O. Then P is skipped. Then Q. Then R is skipped. Then S. Then T will be skipped and U will be here. So L, U. I have got my right answer, that is alpha, but in order to confirm that the last letter is P, I need to move further. So it is again in the reverse order. Let me change the color for you. Q R S T. Okay, so it must be P. P Q R S T. So L U P is the right answer. That is your alpha. Good. So our next MCQ states that Rizwan and Kashif are okay. Rizwan and Kashif are good in hockey and volleyball. So basically, in order to solve these questions, you need to make a table. So Rizwan and Kashif are good in hockey and volleyball? So I've written H for hockey, V for volleyball, R for Rizwan, and K for Kashif. And I am basically marking a tick sign that these both students or persons or children are good in hockey and volleyball. Saeed and Rizwan are good in hockey and baseball. So as for Saeed, R is written above. Rizwan are good in what? Hockey and baseball. So hockey for Saeed and B for baseball. I am writing it down. Rizwan and Saeed both are good in hockey and baseball. Ghafoor, G for Ghafoor. Kashif is already written on the second point. Ghafoor and Kashif are good in cricket and volleyball. So C for cricket. Ghafoor and Kashif are good in cricket and volleyball. So I am basically marking the things up. Saeed, Kashif, and Munib. So Kashif is here. Saeed is on the third point. M for Munib are good in football and baseball. So F for football. Munib is good in football. And Kashif and Saeed are also good in football. Kashif and Saeed are also good in football. While they are also good in baseball. Baseball. Oh, sorry, baseball and baseball. No, Kashif is also good in baseball. Okay. So the question inquires who is good in baseball, cricket, volleyball, and football. So basically, it is asking about football. What are the other things? Baseball, football, and baseball. Sorry, who is good in baseball, cricket, volleyball, and football? So all these four things. So Rizwan is gone. Kashif is a good candidate. Saeed is gone for volleyball. Ghafoor is gone for football. Munib is gone for cricket and volleyball. So the best candidate, best choice was Kashif. He is good in all. Kashif is good in all. Kashif is good in all. Kashif is the answer. Charlie is the answer. Clear? So basically arranging the data in this form will help you a lot. Next, the same question, but the question says that who is good in hockey, cricket, and volleyball. So again, now this time hockey, cricket, and volleyball. Hockey, cricket, and volleyball. Hockey, cricket, and volleyball, not baseball. So Rizwan goes for cricket. Kashif is a good candidate once again. Saeed goes for volleyball. Ghafoor goes for hockey. Munib goes for hockey. Again, Kashif is the right answer because Kashif is good in hockey, volleyball, and cricket. So Kashif B option is the right one. So we have solved both these MCQs with a perfect ease by arranging our data in such a form. Is there any possibility of finishing this project by Friday? So I am basically asking something. I am basically interrogating something. I am basically inquiring that is there any possibility? क्या कोई भी chance है? So this will be interrogative sentence. I am not basically declaring something or asking someone directly. Not an imperative because it is not starting with a verb. Not an exclamative because it is not ending in an exclamation mark. Next comes when a magnet is in motion relative to a coil, the and induced EMF is produced, it does not depends upon. So the induced EMF depends upon the rate of change of flux. You may have learned the Lenz's law and the Faraday's law, which explains the induced EMF very clearly. So pole stand of the pole, yes, the stronger the magnet, the greater will be the induced EMF. Motion of the magnet, the greater the motion, the greater the induced EMF. Number of turns of the coil, the greater the number of turns of the coil, the greater the EMF induced. So there is no impact of resistance of the coil, no impact. There is no impact of resistance of the coil. So the formula is something like that. N delta phi by T. I guess you can confirm it. So the greater the number of coils, the greater the induced EMF. EMF is equal to the greater the rate of change of flux, the greater the induced EMF. Okay, let's move on. Resistance has no role. Lungs have large number of alveoli for. So the larger the number of alveoli, the larger the surface area. The larger the surface area, the greater will be the exchange of gases between the alveoli and the capillaries. So having spongy texture and proper shape? No. A proper shape can be given by using anything other than alveoli. More surface area for diffusion of gases? That's the right answer. More space for increasing volume of inspired air? No. More nerve supply? No. The smaller the alveoli, the small alveoli are basically covered around with capillaries. This is your alveoli, suppose, and these will be your capillaries. These will be your capillaries. They are surrounded with the alveoli like this, and they basically diffuse the gases from the alveoli, from the inspired air into the blood, that is oxygen, and transport the carbon dioxide from the blood into the alveoli again, and which is expired out. Which of the following diverts food masses away from the opening of the larynx? So basically, this epiglottis is involved in moving or diverting the food away from the respiratory tract or the larynx, basically the voice box, the respiratory tract where the respiratory tract starts. The esophageal sphincter is present in the esophagus, which prevents the food from effluxing out and vomiting the food that you have taken in. Respiratory valve is just a vague thing. Soft palate, the floor of your mouth, that is dorsally located, that is behind. Now you have two floors in your mouth. The hard palate, that is located just you may say anterior, that is present like where you usually speak and touch your tongue, while the soft palate is located more dorsally, more behind. Okay, that is the floor of your mouth. Next comes the maximum amount of air that our lung can normally hold is total lung capacity. The total lung capacity in the total lung capacity basically indicates the maximum amount of air we can inhale in ourselves. Vital capacity, the maximum amount of air we can inhale and exhale. This is vital capacity. Tidal capacity, the volume of air that we inhale and exhale at rest is known as tidal capacity. Pulmonary capacity is basically the lung capacity. Percentage of oxygen transported through plasma is 3%. Plasma transportation is 3%. Rest is via hemoglobin. Maximum amount of oxygen is transported via hemoglobin, HB, right? Air is warmed as it passes through. So air is basically warmed as it passes through the nasal cavities, not after that. Okay, nasal cavities is the right answer. Bronchi is right over here when the trachea bifurcates into two parts that moves into the two lungs. Alveoli is basically present inside the lungs. So air is basically warmed in the nasal cavities. So alpha is the right answer. Which of the following statement is correct? Inspiration is an active process. Expiration is an active process. So basically, inspiration requires energy. This requires energy, but exhalation does not require any energy. Why? Because lungs are elastic organs. You have to perform energy in order to expand the lungs. The recoiling is automatic. You have to apply some energy in order to inflate a balloon. You need to apply some energy in order to inflate a balloon, but you do not need any energy to exhale that air out. So you can take an example of balloon from this. Which series of organic compounds share the same empirical formula? So aromatics, you may have aromatics that contain sulfur, nitrogen, and chlorine and various other compounds. So aromatics cannot be the option at any cost. Alkynes, they share a formula that is CnH2n minus 2. That is not an empirical formula. So alkanes, they share a formula that is CnH2n plus 2. That is also not. But CnH2n, that is of alkenes, is a proper formula, that is empirical formula. Every single alkene will follow CnH2n. One carbon, for every single carbon there will be two hydrogen atoms, but here in case of alkanes or alkynes you cannot say that. There is no proper ratio for these, but there is a proper ratio for alkenes, that is 1 ratio 2, 1 ratio 2, 1 ratio 2. For every single carbon you have two hydrogen atoms. So alkenes is the right answer. Where is alkenes? So delta is the right answer. One state copper wire is moved in a uniform magnetic field such that it cuts the magnetic lines of force. Then always remember, These two things should be perpendicular in order to make some force. Fleming left hand rule. These magnetic field lines and this current should be perpendicular in order to make some force. So if there is a current, that is, if there is a charge that is cutting through the magnetic field lines, that means there is some angle present. That means they both are not parallel. If they both are parallel, they cannot cut each other. But if they are moving at certain angles, they are cutting each other. This is current, this is magnetic field lines, they are cutting each other. There is some angle, they are at certain angle, and there will be some force. So EMF will be induced. This cannot be the answer. Sometimes EMF will be induced and sometimes not. It will either be a yes or either be a no. Nothing can be predicted. You can predict something. So EMF will be induced. Which one of the following is not correct for a mole? Not true for a mole. It's a counting unit, yes. Like dozen represents 12. If you say a dozen eggs, that means 12 eggs. Like a pear indicates 2. Like a ream of paper indicates 500 papers. Similarly, a mole indicates certain number of elements, certain number of particles. What is that? Avogadro's number. If you have 6.02 into 10 to the power 23 particles of anything, that means you have 1 mole of that particle. If you have 6.02 multiplied by 10 to the power 23 atoms of hydrogen, that means you have 1 mole of atoms of hydrogen. Basically, what does a mole represent? It is a counting unit, okay? It is the gram atomic or gram formula mass of the substance. You may say that because it barely represents a mole, or a formula mass basically represents the mass of that particular mole of substance. If you take 6.02 into 10 to the power 23 particles of oxygen, then you get how much mass? 32 grams, if that is oxygen gas. If you take 6.02 into 10 to the power 23 atoms of hydrogen, you get 1 gram. If you take 6.02 into 10 to the power 23 atoms of carbon, you get 12 grams. So that's a perfect example. It contains 6.02 into 10 to the power 23 particles. Exactly what I am saying. It contains different number of particles of different substance. No, bro, no. It does not contain different number of particles. It consists of same number of particles, that is Avogadro's number of different substance. So it has different mass, but it consists of same number. Like a dozen represents 12. It cannot change. The mass can change. If the eggs are bigger, large, their mass will be heavier. But if the eggs are small, the mass will be low. But dozen represents 12. 12 is fixed. Similarly, for a mole, 6.02 into 10 by 23 is fixed. It contains different number of particles. No, it cannot consist of different number of particles. Okay. So delta will be the right answer. And this is not true for a mole. 1 mole of sucrose is equal to. So sucrose is basically C12H22O11. So let's add up the masses together. So 12 multiplied by 12, that is 12 grams for 1 carbon, and there are 12 carbons in total, plus 22 plus 16 multiplied by 11. Okay, 12 12s are 144 plus 22 plus 16 multiplied by 11, you will get 176. If you are low at maths, you can watch basically the video in which I have explained very clearly that how to solve decimal equations in a very easy way. 144 plus 22, you will get the answer 146, 166 plus 176. So you will get the answer 342 grams of sucrose. That is alpha option. Alpha is the right answer. Which one of the following is wrong? Okay, again a question from moles. You can pause the video and attempt the MCQ if you have not attempted the free of cost mock test. But if you want to attempt the free of cost mock test, you may get the WhatsApp link below or my contact number. You can contact me directly, and I will provide you with all the links and all the past Sunday free of cost mock tests that were held in our group. So 1 mole of hydrogen weighs less than 1 mole of glucose. Yes, 1 mole of hydrogen weighs only 1 grams, while 1 mole of glucose weighs how much? It will be C6H12O 6, you can calculate the mass if you want. 2 moles of hydrogen and 1 moles of helium weigh the same. So 2 moles of hydrogen will weigh 4 grams and 1 mole of helium will also weigh 4 grams. So this statement is also correct. 0.1 mole of oxygen weighs more than 1 mole of hydrogen. So 1 mole of oxygen weighs 32 grams. So 0.1 mole of oxygen will weigh 3.2 grams, while 1 mole of hydrogen weighs only 2 grams. So 0.1 mole of oxygen means basically 3.2 grams weighs more than 2 grams of hydrogen. Yeah, that's correct. 3.2 is greater than, basically 3.2 is greater than 2. So 2 moles of hydrogen means 4 grams is equal to 4 grams of helium. 1 mole of hydrogen weighs less than glucose weighs whatever that is. 1 mole of nitrogen, that is 28 grams, and half mole of oxygen weighs the same, that is 32 half, that is 16 grams. Now this is a wrong statement. They both are not the same, they both are no common weight. So delta is the right answer. Delta is the right answer. Delta is the right answer. Good. According to Lenz's law, the direction of which of the following always so is to oppose the change which causes it. जिस थाली में खाते हैं उसी थाली में छेद कर देते हैं. तो basically Lenz's law explains the direction of induced EMF, where basically the induced EMF is produced in such a direction that is opposes the cause that causes it. If the magnet with the north pole, this is the north pole, this is what north pole is moving towards the coil will make a south pole towards here. Sorry, the coil will also make a north pole right over here. In order to repel it from coming, and there will be certain EMF induced which is making north pole right over here. In order to repel. So basically Lenz's law explained the direction of induced EMF, that is always in order to oppose the direction which causes it. Okay, induced EMF alpha. Two different loops are concentric and lie in the same plane. The current in the outer loop is in clockwise and decreases with time. The induced current in the inner loop is. Again, Lenz's law. If the current in the outer plane is clockwise, then the current in the inner plane will be anti-clockwise in order to oppose it and not to attract it. So it will be counterclockwise. You can also understand it like this. Or you can always seek for Lenz's law, or let's draw a diagram. Okay, this was the outer loop, this was the inner loop. Okay, outer loop, the direction was clockwise, now the clockwise direction indicates that the north pole is downwards, the south pole is upward. And now let's just make things simpler. Now the current inside will be such that these poles are repelled, so the direction will be counterclockwise, and this counterclockwise will produce north pole upward and south pole downward. This will repel it, this will repel the cause that is producing it, this will oppose the cause that is inducing the EMF in it. So basically that's the reason. In a step-up transformer, voltage in the secondary increases, the power in secondary. Remember, P is equal to IV. In a transformer, in a step-up transformer, voltage increases but the current decreases. As a whole, power remains constant. This was the case of step-up transformer. In case of step-down transformer, P is equal to IV. Voltage decreases but current increases. So power in turn again remains constant. This was the case of step down transformer. So power always remains same and not decreases, not increases. It always remains same. There is no chhedi with power. A structure that does not contain cartilage. So all of these does not contain cartilage. The cartilage ends at the level of bronchi and bronchioles is the last stage where cartilage or cartilage is basically found. That's the last stage that you may see a cartilage or a piece of cartilage. Alveolar duct and alveolar sac does not contain any kind of cartilage. So all is the right answer. Oxygen binding to hemoglobin is, the oxygen that binds to hemoglobin is directly proportional to carbon dioxide concentration. No, the greater the carbon dioxide, the greater will be carboxyhemoglobin. Directly proportional to the carbon monoxide concentration. No, the greater the carbon monoxide, the greater the carboxyhemoglobin. Inversely proportional to the carbon dioxide concentration. Yes, the lower the carbon dioxide concentration, the greater the hemoglobin binding with oxygen. Independent of carbon monoxide concentration? No, it depends. The greater the monoxide concentration, the lesser the binding of oxygen. So yes, inversely proportional. Charlie is the right answer. Hemoglobin readily combines with oxygen to form bright red oxyhemoglobin. Purplish color basically indicates carboxyhemoglobin or deoxyhemoglobin. Bright red oxyhemoglobin is the right answer. An enzyme that is involved in the dissociation of oxygen from hemoglobin is called deoxygenase, that is delta, not anhydrase. Carbonic anhydrase is basically involved in formation of H2O plus CO2 into H2CO3 and nothing else. It is not involved in dissociating the oxygen from hemoglobin. The enzyme is deoxygenase, delta. Deficiency of surfactant in infants results in, so this is basically a disease that is caused by the deficiency of surfactant, in which the lungs are collapsed and they attach with each other like this. The alveoli is collapsed and they attach with each other like this, and no air can be inflated into the alveoli. This is due to loss of surfactant. This is known as RDS or ARDS, acute respiratory distress syndrome. Yeah, respiratory distress syndrome. So beta is the right answer. In asthma, basically you are hypersensitive to certain things, like if certain dust particles, whenever the dust particle moves into your respiratory system, your immune system overreacts to it. While emphysema is the destruction of the alveolar walls, sinuses is basically something wrong with the bones where holes are created. Sinus basically means holes. To improve efficiency of transformer, the flux coupling between primary and secondary coils should be maximum. In order to improve the efficiency of a transformer, the flux that is changing, or the flux that is being induced into the secondary coil, that must be maximum. The flux coupling between the primary and secondary coil should be maximum, and not small and not zero, of course. A transformer is used to convert. Change the level of alternating voltage? Yes, this is the right answer. Delta. Convert mechanical energy into electrical energy? There is no such in mechanical energy that is involved, so wrong. Convert direct current? There is no direct current source. Convert alternating current into direct current? No, there is an alternating current in the primary coil and there is an induced alternating current in the secondary coil. So change the level of alternating voltage, basically that is delta. To reduce end EMF in acquired the linking magnetic flux. So basically, in order to reduce the EMF, we need to what we need to do with the linking magnetic flux. So basically, yeah, it must decrease. So in case we have to decrease the induced EMF, we need to decrease the level of linking flux. What I am basically trying to explain is that, let's suppose there are two coils, something like this and something like this. This is the primary coil, this is the secondary coil. If I need to reduce the EMF that is being induced in the secondary coil, I need to lower the flux that is linking it. Initially, let's suppose there were four arrows. There were four arrows that were basically linking the flux or changing the flux between these two coils. Now I am eliminating two arrows. So if I reduce the number of flux that is linking the primary coil and the secondary coil, then I am basically reducing the EMF that is induced in the secondary coil. So it must decrease. By increasing the flux that is linkage or flux linkage, I am increasing the EMF. So no. By making it constant, I am doing nothing. Can either increase or decrease is not a good option. Next MCQ again from English and grammar. It is regarding the types of sentences: simple, compound, compound, complex, and complex. He not only missed the bus but also forgot his wallet. So not only and but also, if you remember the sentence fanboys, you would remember that fanboys conjunctions are used in compound sentences. So or they are used to join two main clauses. He not only missed the bus, उसने सिर्फ बस नहीं मिस की, बट ऑल्सो फॉरगॉट इज वॉलेट, बल्कि अपना बटवा भी घर भूल कर चला गया। इतना शैतान है। सो बोथ दीज सेंटेंसेस आर मेकिंग कंप्लीट सेंस। सो ही नॉट ओनली मिस द बस, उसने ना सिर्फ अपनी बस को मिस किया, दैट मेक कंप्लीट सेंस कि उसने अपनी बस को मिस कर दिया। सेकंड सेंटेंस इज बट ऑल्सो फॉरगॉट हिज वॉलेट, वो अपना वॉलेट भी घर भूल गया था, अपना बटवा भी घर भूल गया था। दैट ऑल्सो मेक्स अ कंप्लीट सेंस। सो दिस इज बेसिकली अ कंपाउंड सेंटेंस। So basically, guys, I was recording the whole video and then my phone gave an error of storage, and I didn't knew that there was an error and the video was just moving on and I didn't knew just. So let's restart. We are left with only some MCQs. Which pair shows empirical formula of CnH2O whole N? So basically, this MCQ is inquiring that for every one carbon, for every single carbon, there will be two hydrogens, and for every one carbon there will be one oxygen. So this is basically the empirical formula of a compound, and we need to find out which pair in these options follows this rule. So methanol is basically CH3OH. So there are this is C4O. Does it follow this? So it does not follow the rule that we are looking for. CH4O. So alpha option is wrong. Let's move on towards second option. I think benzene does not follow. C6H6 will not follow this rule. So beta is also wrong. Methoxymethane and ethanol. So methoxymethane is basically CH3, C double bond O, and C is methoxymethane. So CH3. So there are three carbons. So for now three carbons, I need to have at least six hydrogen. Let's see. 3 and 3. Yes, I have 6 hydrogen. Now I need to have 3 oxygen. I have only 1 oxygen. So this is also wrong. But ethanol is CH3, C double bond O H. If you want to solve this, you can solve it. This will also not follow the this empirical formula because there are less oxygen. You can solve if you want, but I don't think so it needs any solution because we have already found out that methoxymethane is wrong. Now if you move towards delta option, ethanoic acid and methanol, this is our last hope. If and only if this delta option is right, then our answer will also be right. And if this is also wrong, then there is something wrong with my methodology. So let's see. Ethanoic acid, CH3, C double bond O, OH. So this is ethanoic acid. How many carbons are there? 2 carbons. How many hydrogen should I have? 4. 3 with CH3 and 1 with OH. So 4 hydrogen. Yeah. 2 oxygen. So this completely follows my general formula. Let's see if methanol also follows it. HC double bond OH. This is methanol. So there, this is CH2O basically. So this is the right answer. Both of these compounds are following the empirical formula, that is CH2O whole N. For every single carbon, there are 2 hydrogen and a single oxygen atom. Okay. So this was a good MCQ. Find the length of a conductor which is moving with the velocity. Okay, I have been given the velocity in a magnetic field of 8 Tesla. EMF is 20 volts. If the magnetic field velocity and length of the conductor are mutually perpendicular, so it is following Fleming left hand rule or right hand palm rule. It is following that mutually perpendicular to each other. So I have to basically find what magnetic field strength. Okay, this is magnetic field strength, this is current, and this is force. The question has already told you that these two things are perpendicular, so there must be a force. So there must be an EMF, that is EMF is equal to VBL sine theta, where V is the velocity, B is the magnetic field, and L is the length of the conductor. And sine theta is not required because it has already told you that they are perpendicular. So perpendicular sine 90 is 1. You have been given the value of EMF, that is 20. You have been given the value of velocity, that is 0.4. You have been given the value of magnetic field, that is 8 Tesla, and you have to find the length of the conductor. Now 0.4 multiplied by 8. Again, first step, forget the decimal point. You have to solve for not 0.4, you have to solve for 4. 4 multiplied by 8, 32. Now, first you made the decimal point go 1 point ahead. Now you have to make the decimal point come 1 point behind. First you moved it 1 point forward, now you are moving it 1 point behind. So this is for 3.2, the right answer. 20 is equal to 3.2 L. Now this 3.2 is basically multiplying right over here. It will be getting divided on the other side. 20 divided by 3.2 is equal to length. Now 3 3s are 9, 3 4s are 12, 3 5s are 15, 3 6s are 18, but you have to solve it for 3.2. Now 3.26 are basically is 19.2. If you want to solve it, you can solve it. How did I solve it? I basically forgot the decimal point and calculated it and then placed the decimal point. I followed the 3 steps. So 19.2 is the right answer. But I can only guess the right answer from here, that the value is something around 6. If I look at your perspective and you don't know how to divide 20 by 3.2, you can also divide 20 by 3 and you can say the answer is somewhat near to 6. So the right answer is 6.25, which is the most near to the 6. That is your Charlie option. You may also see that the 20 divided by 3.2, when I multiplied 3.2 by 6, I got the answer 19.2. So there must be a value that is greater than 6 and not smaller than 6. So 6.25 is the right answer. Charlie is the right answer. 6.25 meters. In asthma, which compound? So in asthma, I told you that your immune system gets hypersensitive to something that is non-dangerous to your to your system, such as dust particle, such as butter, such as peanut. If someone is allergic to peanuts, it is not that peanut is harmful for the body, but the body is hypersensitive to peanuts. Body thinks that peanut is a dangerous thing. Whenever the peanut enters, there is an alarming situation and all the compounds are released and fighting against the peanuts and peanuts and peanuts. So histamine is the right answer. Basically, histamine is the thing that is involved in initiating this alarming situation. Heparin is anticoagulant. It does not let your blood clot. Epinephrine is an emergency hormone, while antibodies are your army. Next, she loves painting and drawing in her free time. So she, subject, loves, verb, painting and drawing. What does she love? So this is the object. In her free time is a phrase. When does she love? In her free time. So this is a phrase. Which phrase? Adverb phrase. Adverb phrase of time. Subject, verb, object, phrase. So this is a simple sentence. If you guys want, I will make a separate video on simple, compound, complex and complex sentences. If and only if you want, you can ask me in the comment section below. Let's move on. Next MCQ states that the decrease in pH of the blood has dash effect on oxygen carrying capacity of the hemoglobin. If you are basically decreasing the pH, you are basically increasing the concentration of hydrogen, because you are basically making the medium more and more acidic. You are making the medium more and more acidic. Okay. So the more the hydrogen ions, the more the probability of hemoglobin to bind to these hydrogen ions and forming hydroxyhemoglobin. What will they form? They will form hydroxyhemoglobin, and this hemoglobin will be utilized in forming hydroxyhemoglobin. So less hemoglobin will be available to bind with oxygen. Less hemoglobin will be available to bind with oxygen. Also remember one more thing. Let me tell you. Wait. So basically, what I need to tell you is that the binding capacity of hemoglobin with various molecules varies. It is basically higher for carbon dioxide than oxygen, and it is more higher for hydrogen ions. So the hemoglobin will prefer to bind with hydrogen ions first, then carbon dioxide, then oxygen. It gives least priority to oxygen. Remember guys, it gives least priority to oxygen. oxygen atoms. Why? And why not? Why hydrogen ions has the highest concentration? Why hydrogen ions have the largest capability to bind with hemoglobin? Why has nature done such a thing? So this, the basic reason behind this is that hydrogen ions are highly dangerous for our body. Increasing acidity of the blood may change the pH of the blood, and this change in pH may lead to failure of multiple organs. This change in pH may lead to various difficulties in normal metabolic functions of our body. That's why hydrogen ions have the maximum binding capacity with hemoglobin in these three options. Okay, in these three options, carbon monoxide is even greater. Okay, so in this, the decrease in pH, basically the decrease in pH has a negative effect, because the lower the pH, the greater the hydrogen ions. The greater the hydrogen ions, the lesser the binding capacity of oxygen with hemoglobin to form oxyhemoglobin. Last MCQ is a logical one. 7 plus 5 12, 12 plus 7 19, 19 plus 9 28. Now these are adding up in the odd numbers, so 5 7 9 11. So 28 plus 11, 39 will be the right answer. That is your alpha option. This was a easy and simple logical reasoning MCQ, and nothing was there to worry about regarding this. Next, thank you so much once again for watching this video till the end. I hope you enjoyed the video and every single MCQ of your query is cleared right now. If still some confusion is left, you can drop the confusion in the comment section below. My WhatsApp number is given in the screen, and also it is present in the description below. You can also contact me in order to get all the free of cost mock tests in PDFs and online tests. You can also join our WhatsApp groups, in which you will get the link every Sunday and be able to solve these mock tests completely free of cost. That's a goodbye from my side. Let's meet you once again in another mock test on the next Sunday. Till then, Allah Hafiz.